Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira Cohen, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone, today we're joined by Anne-Laure. So Anne-Laure is a trauma-informed yoga teacher and a certified yoga therapist. She also is a practitioner of Reiki, and we're going to be talking about emotional health and well-being. So my favorite subject. So thank you for being here and enjoy today's talk. Hello everyone. So today we're joined by Anne-Laure. And she's a yoga therapist who works mainly with emotions. She's got a beautiful website, and I've just had a good look at it. And I'm very curious to how you work with emotions. But let's just start with how you got to yoga therapy. How did it evolve from yoga to yoga therapy? What was your journey?
So I started practicing yoga, probably almost 10 years ago now. I used to live in Australia, so that's where I discovered yoga, and I was working as an electrical engineer at the time. And so I was looking for a movement practice, and I kind of stumbled upon a yoga class one day, and I just kept going back. And after practicing for a little bit, I spent some time at an ashram, which was amazing. And it just opened my eyes to like this whole other side of yoga, because so far I had only been, doing the physical practice of yoga and not much into the other aspects of yoga. So that really opened my eyes to like the spiritual aspect and the breathing and meditation aspects of yoga. And so I think it was around that time that I decided that I wanted to do a yoga teacher training to deepen my practice. I think when I signed up, I wasn't sure I wanted to teach yoga. I just thought it was going to be something that, I just learned more about. But by the end of teacher training, I just knew I wanted to teach yoga for sure. I just remember like teaching my very first class, as part of the training, and I was like, and I used to be someone who was really shy and didn't like public speaking or even speaking in front of like people. And so, but standing in front of like a class and actually teaching, I just felt really comfortable and I felt really confident.
Wow.
Even though I was also very nervous and terrified, but like I was like, oh, I can do this. And I
know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of took me by surprise a little bit, because I didn't expect that. I thought I was going to really struggle to like teach in front of a class. And then I guess at that point, like I already was really interested in like yoga for mental health in particular. And so I started to kind of like, dig a little bit deeper in that. And I did a trauma-informed yoga teacher training to, I guess, help me understand more about trauma and PTSD. And then I found yoga therapy and realized that it was a thing. And so I was like, wow, okay, let's see, what this is and how I can go in that direction. So I found a training that was also in Australia, and that's where I did my whole yoga therapy training. And and this whole time, like I was, really looking into yoga for mental health and how it can help with anxiety and depression and PTSD. I started teaching at a mental health hospital, doing classes for veterans, I just really like enjoyed this aspect of I guess teaching people who had never done yoga before and who were, who maybe would not have ended up in a regular yoga class. I just really enjoyed that, and showing them that yoga is not just like, the complicated poses and
The
like what
pretzels.
you, yes, what, like, I guess what we see a lot of yoga, and just showing them that it's really just about like breathing and connecting with your body and reconnecting with ourselves. And so yeah, and so I focused on mental health for quite a while, and
Can
then
I can I
very
just
recently, yeah.
can I just ask why that was a focus for you? Why were you so interested
um
in the mental health aspect? Was it for your own purposes or?
yeah, I think when I was getting into that, I don't think I realized how much it actually helped my own mental health, but in hindsight, definitely, like,
Mm,
I've realized now that I've struggled with like cycles of anxiety and depression throughout my life. And so I think like just knowing how much it helped me, and I wanted to share that with other people.
mm,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I understand because I had the same. And it's funny, I didn't even realize it. I was listening to one of my, like, I have a crush kind of on a teacher, yoga teacher. She's Ashley Turner. She's also a yoga, no,
Mm,
she's a psychologist. Do you know her?
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
wonderful. And she was talking about anxiety and depression. And then I was like, oh my God, that's what I've been doing my whole life. And I've just been doing yoga practice since I was a child to
Mm-hmm.
regulate myself. It was helping me
Mm-hmm.
keep that balance. But if I didn't
Yeah.
practice for a few days or a week, I would really notice that I was cycling back into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it's very
Yes.
powerful stuff.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
read in your on your website that you felt like at times you were drowning in emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Could you?
Yeah, so that's a very recent realization, like earlier
Mm,
this year. I've always been talking about emotions, like in the way that I teach yoga, and like and self-regulations and all that. But um I just recently realized like how much of a focus it really is for me.
mm,
And then I've realized that I feel my emotions very intensely. And I guess I always knew that, but yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, of course I do. I've just realized that I really, do that. And so, yeah, like I've, again, like in hindsight, I feel like I was either feeling like so overwhelmed in how I felt and like unable to really understand like where that was coming from and why it was so intense, and why I was feeling that way.
mm.
And then to the other side of the cycle where I just wanted to push it all away and want to just ignore all of this, emotions for a while, hoping that they would go away, which
And
of course
that's
they don't.
yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
where the depression and anxiety come from. When you
Hmm.
start to
Yeah.
feel the emotions, there's anxiety, and when you
Yes.
suppress, it's
It's
depression.
depression. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So yeah, and so that's kind of where, like, how I ended up into like more the emotional freedom and the emotional health, and then, like, because I feel like that's like another layer underneath maybe the
Hmm.
anxiety and depression,
Hmm.
and the fact that we are taught and we grow up in a society where like we just don't know what to do with those emotions.
Well, we
And
control them, or we manage
yes,
them, or we suppress.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But we don't feel them. We do everything but
No.
feel them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I think that's at the root of a lot of like, the mental health, the anxiety and depression that a lot of people are experiencing.
Well,
So just
even
not,
do you know Zach Bush? He's a doctor,
no.
internist. No, he was talking about the three main factors to even disease in the body, physical
Mm-hmm.
disease.
Yes. Yeah.
Emotion is the third major contributor
Mm-hmm.
to
Yes.
disease. Yes, because
Yes.
it affects our physiology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So it works
Hmm.
both ways, the mind
It
and the
does.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so
So
great talking to you. It's like,
yeah.
someone gets it. Because I try to talk with everyone about how important emotions are, and
Hmm.
people just
Yeah.
kind of skim over it, not realizing how, because there's so much power in them as well, isn't
Hmm.
there? Yeah,
Yeah.
if we can
Yeah.
really just turn it around and it becomes empowering rather than disempowering.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like in a lot of like the way that we look at emotional health, like we focus on, you know, either like talking about it or thinking about it or trying to like logically navigate it. And we just leave like the body out of this like healing process. And so I think that's why yoga is so powerful with this, is because like it just brings the body back into the picture, I guess.
I was wondering about your Reiki, because you do Reiki. In
Hmm.
Ayurveda, for example, we say that emotions are, their name is rasa, and rasa
Hmm.
means taste, flavor. It
Hmm.
means juice, sap,
Mm.
according to context, musical
Yeah.
harmony. Yeah, so it's really, when you
Wow,
know
that's really
that,
interesting.
yes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what does
Yeah.
Reiki say about this?
It's very new for me still. So
Okay,
so far like I'm using it for myself
okay.
mostly. I haven't practiced it with other people very much. But like I think
You're
energy.
your own guinea pig.
Yes, exactly.
I do the same.
Yeah. But I think energy, like energy work and energy healing, is definitely like a big part of this. And I'm actually reading this book called The Emotion Code at the
Mm,
moment.
I've read it.
I don't, you read it, yeah.
Mm.
And so it talks about the same thing, like how emotions get, trapped and stuck in our bodies and can affect our physical body and our physiology, like you were saying. And so I guess having that awareness around the energetical level
Aspect.
as well, on which where emotions live, I guess, and how they affect us like on every level of who we are, I guess, not just physical, mental, but also spiritual and energetical levels. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
For me, I believe they're a bridge. They're the bridge.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because
I like that.
yeah, I'm really looking for clues. How can we help all different minds understand how important and essential emotions are? And
Hmm.
like you were saying, it's about the energy, and this, it's a movement, emotion, energy,
Hmm.
emotion. So
Yeah.
if we understand the direction of this energy and what it's trying to tell us, like it's moving us
Hmm.
either away, into, down, to escape, to avoid, to
Hmm.
eliminate, or whatever. And
Yeah.
when we understand what energy is, like energy is the movement from potential to
Hmm.
actual. So we
Hmm.
can, yeah, so we can use it
Yeah.
both ways. We can undo a disease, or we can create a disease with an
Yeah.
emotion. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh, I love that. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's so great. When you're buzzing on something, you can just. I've been researching it for 3 years, and it's like there's just more
Yes.
and more the more you go into it. Yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah. Okay, so you say on your website, making peace with your emotions, even the difficult ones. So
Hmm.
tell me about how you do that. How does yoga
Yeah. So,
therapy work with
hmm
this?
yeah. So I guess before I go into that, I want to say that like I don't believe there are like positive or negative emotions, and we hear a lot about like getting rid of negative emotions or clearing negative emotions or things like that. And I just don't think they're just not positive or negative. That's the meaning that we give to them. Um, and I think instead, the way I like to reframe it is that they are emotions that are easy for us to feel, and then there are the ones that are really challenging for us to feel. And what's been interesting for me to realize too is that a lot of us, even the ones that are labeled as positive, they can be really hard for us to feel. Like it can be really hard for us to feel joy, because I feel like a lot of people are in this state where, like, when they feel happy or joyful, they kind of like, like already stepping away from it, like, oh, that's too good to be true, or when is the other shoe gonna drop, like what, something bad's gonna happen. And so they, like, we really, I probably include myself in that, we struggle to like fully just enjoy like the emotion that we are experiencing right now, and not enjoy when it's like joy or peace or happiness. And then, but that can be a struggle too, like to even feel those ones. And so I think where yoga helps is that it can help us, first of all, like slow down enough so that we can notice and bring awareness to what is present. Because I feel like, and that often happens to me as well, is that like when I'm in a state where like there's something that I'm avoiding or that I don't want to feel or that I don't want to look at, I just keep myself busy, or do a whole lot of other things, just, but it's really just to avoid that like feeling or looking at something, which is quite interesting to notice that in myself, and I think it's true for a lot of people. And so so yoga just brings us a little bit of space and a little bit of time to like slow down and bring awareness. And then once we have that awareness, it also gives us the tools to hold space for ourselves while we are feeling that challenging emotion or looking at something that we have been avoided. And like, I feel like we spend a lot of time, like as a culture and individuals, to like try to make ourselves feel better. And for me, that often translates as like, there's something that I don't want to look at, but I'm just trying to make myself feel better by doing a lot of other things. And it might include going to yoga, it might include, breathing or something, but am I doing it with the intention of distracting myself, or am I doing it with the intention of like holding space for myself and actually feeling? So so that's the approach that I take when I talk about making peace with your emotions. Is first like slowing down, noticing, then holding space to allow yourself to feel. And I find that like for most of us, really, when like the reason why we're not feeling safe to feel something is because it probably hasn't been safe in the past to feel that. And everyone has experienced trauma to some degree at some point in their lives, and so that's maybe like the root of why we don't feel safe feeling certain emotions, in my opinion. So I think there's a process that we have to go through of like creating a space that feels safe for us to actually feel, whether that's like an internal space or like a physical space, or whatever it is that we need to create to be able to go through that process.
Okay, yeah. And so do you talk to people about the different emotions? And I agree that there's this aspect that there's trauma, and that's why people don't even want to go to those difficult, even ourselves. So there's times where I feel just, it might not even be trauma, but just so much stress in the day that to sit down and meditate just makes me feel how uncomfortable I am rather than that it makes me feel good. Yeah. And I think we need to normalize feeling crap and feeling those hard to feel sensations and bodily experiences.
Yeah, I think that's very.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of shame involved. Shame about not feeling good, or even as a yoga therapist, I had a lot of shame. Why wasn't I dealing with my emotions? Why was I in this state in the first place? Why did I burn out? Why was perimenopause making me go through these waves, like you said, drowning in emotions?
Okay. I like that you said like about being uncomfortable. I think that's like a big part of this, is just feeling comfortable being uncomfortable, because a lot of those physical sensations are uncomfortable, especially when they're not familiar. And especially if we've not been allowing ourselves to feel them for a very long time, then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, like what is this? And knowing what to do when that comes up. And yeah, like if we don't feel good, then I feel like, there's a place for like tools to allow us to like maybe shift our mood a little bit and get away from like feeling like really like crap to maybe the place where you feel uncomfortable, but it's still you're okay and you're safe. And I feel like that's where like feeling the feelings, and bringing up more of the discomfort, needs to happen, instead of just trying to bypass that completely and going to, I just want to feel amazing all the time. um, yeah, and also I guess like normalizing, like you said, just the experience of being human, and that it's just not, we're not going to feel like amazing and great all the time, and that's okay. Like it's not a bad thing. But I feel like, I don't know if it's like a product of growing up in the society and the culture that we grew up in, or what it is, but like I feel like there's that pressure and expectation to just, you just, feel happy all the time, and that's the goal. And I don't think that's the goal.
No, I agree. It's not the goal.
Yeah.
Life is a process. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, for that context. And so when you're with people, do you first give them that safe resource and then slowly move in and out of this discomfort?
Yeah, so I guess like it just depends where people are, and what they're struggling with in particular. But I think, yes, being able to create that safe place for themselves is the first step that I would go through, so that like if then things get too overwhelming or too much, they know that they have a place that they can come back to and anchor themselves and ground themselves, back before, I guess, before diving deeper into, the challenging emotions and the difficult things that it can bring up as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this question I think we've answered. But why do you think people struggle with their emotions, these difficult ones? What do you think is attached to it, apart from society and our own expectations?
Um, to me, that's a big part of it. I think that as a collective, we are really bad at holding space for people who struggle. And
Very
I
true.
think that then we just go and find ways to cope with the things that come up, and the overwhelm and the stress, and I guess all of the consequences of not feeling our feelings. um but like I don't know why we struggle with this so much. That's a good question. I mean,
Do you think because they're so complicated and because we're illiterate, we don't know what they are and what they're saying, and we haven't been allowed to
yeah.
feel them as children?
Mm-hmm.
We've been shamed. I think
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
of
I think
shame
that's a big
attached.
part of it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of shame. Yeah, a lot of shame around like not feeling good, and just
Or
not,
even
I guess maybe,
feeling.
yeah, like, the shame around it, and the shame around not, showing our emotions around other people because it's not commonly accepted.
Mm,
Well, some are accepted more than others, I feel like. I feel like for some people it's just easier for them to be angry than sad, for example, and vice versa. I know for me it's easier to be sad than angry. um so that's, I think there's just specific things around certain emotions for different people. And I was going to say something else.
What about this is something I'm touching on at the moment. What about certain emotions for men and certain emotions, like you said, you're comfortable feeling sad. I think it's more accepted for women
Yes.
to feel sad, but not angry
Yes.
or confident even
Yes.
as a positive.
Yeah.
And a positive for a man could be very intuitive and friendly,
Yeah.
which is also less accepted. Yeah.
And for a man to show like sadness is very difficult probably. And not accepted by just I guess society and culture. Yeah.
It's important to do this not alone, this emotional healing and
Mm-hmm.
feeling and moving through the emotions.
Yeah.
Please tell me why.
Well, I think that we are again like taught to be really independent and to do things on our own, and that if we don't do them on our own, then we're not really doing them. That's something I feel quite a bit. I'm not sure where it comes from. It could just be like, the way I was brought up, or but even like, and I grew up in France, and since moving to America, there's probably like more of that in the US as well, of like be unique and be your own self, and you know blaze your own trail, and like get down, like go on your unique path. And so I feel like we just need to like normalize being supported. I feel like we are meant to be in community, and we are meant to support each other. And I feel like it's still not like really commonly accepted to have that. And that like, and also like, and I feel that for like the mental health aspect, that like asking for help there's still like a big stigma around that, and around just saying like I'm struggling, or I'm not okay right now and I need help. Like and then somehow it makes it that there's something wrong with us when we do that. And I feel like we just need to normalize that. Like there's definitely, we all going to go through times in our lives where we are struggling and where we need help, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with us for wanting that support.
No, that's interesting, because I was just talking to my daughter's teacher today, and she was saying that my daughter hadn't finished her project, and we discussed the situation, and it turns out she hasn't asked for help at school nor from me, and so she was struggling. And then I'm like, oh no, she's repeating this pattern, which I discovered through my burnout. I wasn't also asking for help. I love to do things alone.
Yes.
And it's so promoted in our society, like you just said, to trailblaze. But why do we want to set everything ablaze? Look at our Earth. Look at the planet now. It's a mess. It's burning.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely something I feel too. Like I'm a very independent person, and I'm just learning to like allow myself to be supported. And surrender. Yep.
And you said something before that I found, that hit it on the head, and maybe you missed it, is that it's social. We are social, and emotions are social, and struggling isn't something to be shamed for. It's just showing that we're connected, and that we need each other to learn, and to grow, and to thrive as a community. Or a culture.
And there's so much we can learn from each other. And so
I'm learning a lot
sometimes
from you.
Like when and I'm learning a lot from you too. Like I just love like those connections, and I think we just need more of that.
We need to reach out and speak to each other, and find ways to really uplift each other in a big way.
And I feel like with social media too, it's like this, we only see like a tiny part of people's lives, and somehow it's become like a way to compare ourselves to other people, and to think everyone else has it all together and never struggle, and it's just not true.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see. Tell us how you would work with emotions. For example, with shame. Do you work differently with different emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I work very intuitively with people. So I think the process, I mean, I do have a process that I go through when I work with someone one-on-one. So for me, that would be to like just spend a lot of time really learning about who they are as a person and what they're, I guess, get a picture of their whole life, and like, every layer, I guess, of who they are as a person. And um like with yoga therapy, like we talk about the koshas and all the different, I guess, physical, mind, emotion, energetical, spiritual. And so looking at the person who's in front of me as someone who has all of this, and I guess doing that as a way to meet them where they are, and understanding what they need in this moment. And I guess depending on where they are, like with navigating emotions, they might be at a point where they just need coping tools to deal with like the symptoms, I think, of what's happening for them. And that might be where we start, because maybe we can't really get to a place where we can get to the root just yet. So that might be where I start, depending on where the person is at. And if someone is already feeling pretty steady and grounded in who they are, like I would definitely give them more tools, because I feel like we can never be too grounded uh, in our current world. And then I guess through like all the tools of yoga, whether it's physical movement, whether it's breathing, I feel like the breath is really important in like getting to the deeper into those emotions. And I like, I've always been like quite musical as a person. Like I played piano growing up, but I've kind of like been going back into sound quite a bit, and like playing with like singing bowls. And I just got myself like a tongue drum. I don't know if you know of these. And yeah, I just love it. And I think that's another tool like that can be really powerful and healing. Chanting is another like part of like how I bring sound into it. And meditation, and again, meditation will depend like where the person is at, because for some people it just might be too challenging to like sit in silence. And so I like to bring other tools, make like the movement more of a meditation and things like that. And yeah, and I think then cultivating like the self-awareness of like noticing when a particular emotion may be triggering them into a certain behavior. So like looking at those patterns that are present in their lives. And that just starts with like them looking at what is, what they can see, and maybe bringing awareness to that. And then, I mean, I still think the tools are really important. The tools that yoga gives us to do all that are really important. Because then when something, and having like the resources that we need, so that when something comes up, and and it's not during our yoga session, it's just in day-to-day life as it happens, then they know like, okay, how can I support myself through this? So yeah, so I guess like I like to see it as helping people cultivate like a deep trust in themselves, and that knowing that they have everything they need to navigate life and whatever life throws at them. And again, like, it's not to say that we don't need support. As I said, like, I think it just goes hand in hand, but at the same point, like, we also need to develop that resourcefulness in ourselves, so that we just trust in ourselves, that like we have our own back, and that when we do go through a struggle, then we'll know what to do. Yeah. And whether it is reaching out for support when we need it, whether it's finding the tools that we have for ourselves, or cultivating community around us. Yeah.
So it's really giving people self-esteem, self-confidence on a slow, steady level, and even sense of community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah. Would you like to leave people with a little practice? And is there anything else you want to share or talk about? Something we haven't covered?
Practice.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, let's do a little practice. All right. So I invite you to come into a comfortable seat, whatever that means for you, whether it is sitting in a chair or sitting cross-legged. And taking a few moments here to notice, starting with your breath, just noticing the flow of your breath in and out, feeling the air travel through the nose, down the throat, feeling your lungs expanding and contracting again as you breathe out, feeling the air travel back out of the body. Taking a few moments here to sit with that breath. Maybe notice one thing that you've never noticed about your breath. Letting your attention move to your body, feeling the places where your body is making contact with the floor underneath you or the chair underneath you. And as you feel all those different points of contact, noticing that you are supported. And as you integrate that, knowing that you are supported, see if you can allow yourself to soften, to relax just a little bit more. Is there somewhere in your body where you're holding tension? Can you let that soften, knowing that you have the support that you need underneath you? And to allow ourselves to ground a little more, I like to use mudras or hands position. So I invite you to bring your thumb to your ring finger on both hands and letting your hands rest on your legs. Taking a few more deep breaths in and out. And to finish, we'll do a breath practice called square breath or box breath. That's really good for grounding and balancing as well. So we're going to start by breathing in to a count of 4. Pausing at the top for a count of 4. Exhaling for a count of 4. Pausing again for a count of 4. Continuing like that. So I'll guide you through 2 more here. Inhale to a count of 4. Pausing to a count of 4. Exhale for 4. Pause for 4. And one more cycle here. Inhale for 4. Pause for 4. Exhale for 4. And pausing again. And allowing your breath to come back to its natural rhythm. Releasing the mudra or hand position to bring the hands together in front of your heart. Taking a moment again to feel the connection between the palms of the hands. Feeling the connection between the fingers. Let's take a deep breath in, deep into the belly. And a breath out. When you're ready, releasing the hands and gently opening the eyes.
That was so lovely. I feel so calm now.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I really loved what you said was feel something in the breath that you haven't felt before, because usually we look for something we've already experienced. So it was very nice. It was like, oh wow, I can do that too. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Anne-Laure.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is there anything you would love to leave our listeners with? Your website, your programs?
Yes, so you can find me, and I'm sure you'll put this on your notes as well. So you can find me on my website at yogawithanlaure.com and Instagram and Facebook as well. I do have a Facebook group that is all about yoga and emotional freedom, where I share every week. I share some like insights and tips on how to make peace with your emotions. Yes, I'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Thing about like understanding our emotions, knowing what to do with them, and all the things we talked about today. I've just started to offer a weekly yoga class as well, that is 30 minutes. So again, it's still on the same theme of like learning some tools for you to make peace with your emotions. And I'm hosting the class every Wednesday mornings at the moment, but you do get access to the recording as well. So it's 8 a.m. Pacific time in the US, but you do get access to the recording as well in case the time doesn't work for you. You can get back to it for 5 days. And what else? I do have a 5-day little course that is, again, like it's called Journey Towards Emotional Freedom. So we go a little bit deeper again into all of what our emotions, how to understand them, how to learn the tools to hold space for ourselves to feel and to allow ourselves to feel again.
Wonderful.
So that's what I have going on as well. And I offer one-on-one sessions as well if you want to go even deeper and learn the tools that, I guess, learn like the practices that would really support you in particular on this journey. So if you need something that's more tailored for you, then I would definitely recommend the one-on-one sessions for that.
Okay. I will put everything in the show notes. That way people can find it easy. It was so lovely getting to meet you. Thank you for being here. It was a really wonderful conversation. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, it was really great. I learned a lot from everything you said as well, and it was great to meet you and make connections around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So thank you for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. For those of you who don't know, I've also got a Facebook group, which I forgot to plug in all these podcasts. And it's called Yoga for Emotional Empowerment and Health. So it's all about learning different tools for different emotions and understanding them in relation to Ayurvedic elements and principles, so you can really quickly self-regulate yourself. So weekly I do a live for 10, 15 to 20 minutes where I explain about different emotions, also anxiety and depression. So please join there, and I will put a link to the Facebook group in the notes. Website, I also have a lot of blogs and articles, resources that you can download, PDFs, which will help you deal better with emotional life and turn those emotions from a sea of emotions which you feel totally out of control in, to actually transforming your life and feeling empowered, feeling that you are alive and passionate, and that you understand what emotions are trying to tell you and how you can move with them rather than against them or suppressing them. Okay, much love to you and be well. See you next week, or hear from me next week in any case. Bye.